Hello everybody, welcome to the Ftog server. ToddytheBody here. Avant 3 is your mod pack today. Okay, so I think we're gonna get right into it because it's going to be a technical episode. Yep, I'm sorry. It is going to be very technical, and it's going to be one of those that if you're the technical type, then keep on watching. If not, then I will just say that I am sorry, but we're going to go through a bunch of technical stuff. Alright, you can see that I have cleaned up my area over here. I took out all the mess and everything except for this one little project chest. I've got these all over the world. But anyways, let's see what we've got here. We touched on automated rune making last time. It was a very sloppy program, and it still is sort of a sloppy program, but at least the functionality of it works. So let's do a demonstration. Let's say I need to make a crafting recipe of this Rune of Gluttony, right? Okay, so here's how you're gonna do that part, and then we'll get into the actual programming part of it. Do I have a programming card on me? I don't. Okay, I thought of actually getting the rune and all that, but then not the card. Okay. So here's what you need to craft one of those. Rune of Gluttony, you need the winter rune and you need the fire rune, and then 2 mana diamonds. So that should be an easy recipe to get, right? Okay, I think I just need the mana diamonds. We'll use 1, and then we will grab the 1 rune that I made by hand, and a winter rune, and a fire rune. Alright. Oh, and then we'll right click with the crafting card to get that up. So then we put the item that we want to make over there. We're going to put 2 of the mana diamonds in the crafting recipe along with the fire and the winter, and then that should be good. Alright, so if we look inside our crafting station, wherever it may be, do you see it? There it is. We don't have the Rune of Gluttony inside there. Let's throw this into this workstation. And then now we do have the Rune of Gluttony. It's right there. So what I want to do, just so you can see that it works, it's a recursive. Here, let's put this back in there. And if you're wondering how I'm getting this right here, these are the screens from Rftools. If you craft one of these storage control modules and then you shift right click it onto a scanner, it will scan. You'll be able to access the inventory of whatever you had shift right clicked on. And then if you go inside the options, you can have up to 9 different items inside here that you can like pull stuff out and see your amount that you have in your storage and all that. So because it uses the winter and the fire, I'm going to pull all of those out so that it has to make some new ones. There we go. Now if you know the winter rune, it makes cake, right? Let's take a look at it. Winter rune. There we go. Cake. So I'll have to craft cake. You can see in my storage I have no cake. And you see that I have 3 empty buckets and 6 buckets with milk. One of the concerns that came up about the auto crafting is how do you get the buckets out, like leftover stuff. And we'll go through that when we go through the program. So get ready, guys. We're going to be going through this mess and talking to you about what it all means. So let's see it work. 6, 3, no cakes, no winter runes, no fire runes. Let's do it. Rune of Gluttony. Yeah, that's the one we want. Okay, so it's going to start off by making fire rune. And then just like all the runes, it's going to load up on mana. And then after the mana, it's going to put the living rock there and then hit it with the wand. And there's that. It's important that you don't have a magnet on while you do any of this because it's falling, so that means it's actually like can be grabbable. Yep, see there's my magnet. Okay, so after that it's going to need to make a winter rune, and to make the winter rune it needs, oh I should have pulled out like all my water runes and stuff like that, so it has to do that separately too. But anyways, there's the cake. Ooh, now we have 9 buckets and 1 leftover cake. So it crafted 2 cakes instead of 1. That's a little bit of a glitch, but at least the cake is in there for next time, right? Okay, So it's doing that. We're still making the rune. So now we should see the living rock. Anytime. There it is. And then it'll hit it with the wand. And then now that it has the winter rune and the fire rune, it will start making, yep, there's 2 pieces of mana and the winter rune and the fire rune, and then now I'll be making the rune of gluttony. So as you can see, it waits to do each of the runes that it needs to make. It doesn't start piling on the ingredients all at once. It does the recursive crafting for regular items that you might need, and then also it clears the crafting grid, this here, of any buckets. So proof of concept, it actually works, and now I know you want to know how it's all done. So that's going to finish up. We're going to get 2 right here instead of 1. As soon as it hits it, there we go. And there it is, 2. And if we look inside here, it should have said that it was, oh, there it is. It's just a little slow. Now it says it's complete. We can get our runes here to do all of our Botania crafting. Alright, now let's put the rest of our runes away, just like that. And let's get into it. Okay. And here we go. So the first part of the crafting grid, of the, not the crafting grid, but the recipe grid to here, the opcodes and all that stuff. I think that there's an easy way to do this. If I were to, I think that if I just go like this, I can kind of point out stuff to you. Like that. Okay, so we're going to talk about this part of the recipe that's highlighted right here. This is the regular automated auto crafting part of the code. We've shown this before. It might look a little different because I don't have this underneath. I've tucked it over to the right. And then this is the part over here that cuts out like the extra buckets I was talking about. So since we've done all of this multiple times, we will talk about just the bucket part. Is there a way to remove selection? Okay, double click. Yeah, there we go. So after it gets done crafting, which is this part here, where it takes the items here, puts it in the crafting grid, crafts it, and takes it out and puts it in the processor, then it needs to clear the crafting grid, right? So here it counts the items that are in the crafting grid. So you can see it's the inventory that is up of the from the processor, so up here. And then the crafting grid actually counts as the upside. This results part is the downside. So it counts the up and the up, and that's the only thing I have in there. And then it says, is it greater than 0? If it is not greater than 0, then that means it is 0, so then it continues on and it finishes. But if it is greater than 0, then that means there's something in there. So what I have is that it will grab an item from the inventory and put it in the processor from the upside on the up slot, and it puts it into slot 10 of the processor, which is this slot right here, because the crafting all happens in this area. And get back in. Okay, so then it will take it, so then once the items are in the processor, like the buckets and all that, then I need to get them into my main storage. And the main storage is the downside from the processor, which is down here. And this is my dump chest. So you can see, like, say this here, this goes back into my regular storage, and then I have to get it all in one tool. There it is. There we go. Okay, let's see here. So now you know that it's sending it into that inventory. And it's saying, well, what slot in the processor would you like to take that stuff from? And it's from slot 10. Remember, over here, when we put stuff into the processor, we put it in the slot 10. So now we're saying it, take it from slot 10. Sorry. I've got some terrible indigestion right now. And sometimes just like coughing like that makes it feel a lot better. I just took like a Pepsid, so it should be getting better soon. But that's why that is. Okay, so now we're into the rune part. This part is crazy because here's what I did. I didn't know what it was going to look like. So I just started working on it, and I just started going on through it, and as I needed space, I like curled around, and then I curled back, and So that's why it's kind of a mess. I bet you if I were to, I could, now that I know that I don't need all of this space, I could probably extend it kind of around, make it just a little bit neater. Ooh, pardon me. Okay, so let's get into this. Now, some of this you might recognize as a regular crafting recipe, but because it's not using the workbench over here, it can't be all the way like the crafting recipe. Like this up here is made specifically for using like a crafting station and like a 3x3 grid to craft and stuff. If you want to use machines and stuff, you have to use a different method, but a lot of it is the same. So let's go ahead and highlight the parts that you might recognize. Right there, that. And that probably be about it. So you can see that the section that I've highlighted is identical to the section up above. That really gets the crafting going on these crafting recipes. So the first part here is the event craft, and what that does is it puts the recipes over in the slot because it looks for the inventory with the crafting cards, which in this case, this one is going to be up. And then you want to look at the side of the block, so that's why I have north selected. And that's going to look into here for these crafting cards. Now to get like the fishing rod and the cake and the bucket and all that, that's why we have this top part here to craft that kind of stuff. And it is looking at the inventory to the east for the crafting cards, and east is that direction, which is this inventory right here. So you have to have the crafting cards separated. One for like regular bench crafting, whoops, and then one for like your specialty crafting right here. Okay, let's go back inside to the program. Okay, so now we can see the recipes inside of the crafting station, right? And then it puts the lock on, and the lock is really the key here. The lock and key, if you want to say it. Nope. The lock is the key here to getting each of the runes to craft separately, so you don't have to worry about rune pieces or ingredients stacking up on each other. Like if there's a lock here, if it's trying to craft another rune, it's locked, so it's going to start, run into the lock, and then stop again if one is already in process. So we have a lock at the beginning of our crafting recipe, and then we have unlocks at the ends, like when the program is ending. Okay, so but we'll run into those and I'll tell you about them. Okay, so then after the lock, and I had the lock is set on 2, like that's the name. The first one I named it 1, and then here's 2. So the next part of it, excuse me again, it is late. Like I worked all day, and then I came home, went to sleep, and then I woke up again, and it's like midnight. So I didn't sleep through the whole night. Okay, so once the crafting ticket has been made, it's going to look to see if it has all the ingredients to keep crafting. And that's what this Get Ingredients Smart is. And then it's going to look for the crafting cards that it will need to build it, which is going to be up and on the side, which we pointed out is over here. And then we go down. It's not going to be a certain item because it depends on what rune you select. And it's going to say, well, what slots inside the processor do you want to use? And we're going to use slots 11 through 16, and that is 6 different slots. And because I think at most there's like a recipe in here that uses 6 different items somewhere. It's got to be one, right? There it is. Yep, 6 different items. And we've got that automated also. See, right there. And while we talk, we'll just get it going, just to make one. All right. Okay, so then it's going to say the destination inventory. Which inventory would you like to stick all of the things that are kind of left over? And we're going to say down. So pretty much our dump chest, remember? This goes back to our inventory. And it's about to throw that living rock down. There it is. And then hit it. And then over there, you see 4 of the mana runes, and it should go up to 5. 5, 5, 5. There it is. Alright. So, let's see. And then the next step is that it's going to report if it has all of the ingredients that it needs. It'll report back as a -1 if it doesn't, and a 0 if it does. So, if the last number is -1, then that means it will unlock and then mark it as a failure. So say if like, say I wanted to make one of these, but I don't have any, let's go and say mana. I don't have any mana dust, or if I don't have any mana diamonds, let's grab this. Oh, let's grab all of it. And I think if I try to do the gluttony recipe again, because it takes mana diamonds, it's gonna say, hey, you don't have it, so it's gonna fail the craft. I'm pretty sure. Yep, failed because I don't have any mana diamonds. But if I were to put those in and then do it, it would go ahead and craft the thing again. Okay, and so that's what that does. This craft failure opcode. If it was not a -1, it'll move on to the next thing. And if the number is equal to 0, then that means it did have all of its stuff, and it will move on with the code. But if it wasn't negative, if it wasn't 0, then that means it didn't. So it'll go up, unlock, and then wait, and then that will give another ingredient a chance to craft. If we look at the get ingredient smart and hit shift and look at the tooltip here, it will say check if all ingredients are available if in another inventory or storage system. If so, fetch them in processor. Otherwise, try to request all missing items. That is the key right there. That's what this opcode is really special for. Try to request all missing items. And what that means is that it will insert a crafting request. Not just a request to like get it out of your storage, but a crafting request if you have a crafting recipe for it. And what it actually does, which is so cool, and I guess it's just pre-programmed in there because I don't really tell it to do it, is that it will check this other string if it has any crafting ability to craft different items, like a fishing pole or cake or carpet or something like that. I think that that's really cool. So it will give it enough time to try to craft some of the lesser ingredients or the lesser tiers of a rune that you want to make. And once it has all of those and you do get the 0 and you're ready to head on to your next recipe, what I have here is that I'm having a redstone signal set. Okay, so now here's where we start explaining the actual rune difference than the workbench difference. So I'm setting a redstone signal right down here. I didn't really show the guts of this. I have another node right here, and it's attached to, like, okay, you know how if you have we said we had here, I'll just pick it up. Okay, I don't want to break too much, just like that. There we go. So that's the altar right up there, and we talked about before that it'll put out a signal of 2 when it's ready to actually craft, like put the living wood on when it's not accepting mana anymore. And it gives out a signal of 1 when it is accepting mana. But I don't really care about that as far as this process. I just want that 2. So what it does is it'll put out its signal of 2 on the sticky comparator, and then the sticky comparator will tell the node that I had down that it's a 2. And we'll get into that part. What I have here is that the node sends off a redstone signal into this mechanical user that has the wand, and that's how you do that part where after you have the living wood down, you have to hit it with the wand and then it turns it into the actual rune. So we'll get into that also. But then we also have this range collector here, and it is picking up all of the runes. I've turned off metadata, so it picks up all runes, not like just the air rune. If I had this selected here, it would just pick up the air rune. But if we do this, it picks up all runes. And we'll also come back to the fact that this has to be up here. It has weight on another part of the program, so I'll reference that later. Anyways, something that I found out is that if you apply a redstone signal here, it won't pick up, it won't do its collecting. A range collector is like an item collector, to where like it pulls stuff out of the air that's falling, and because it's whitelisting only runes. Let me grab a couple runes to demonstrate it. Alright, so if I just throw it, it's instant. So and it picks up through walls too. So it won't get too far in front of my face before it picks it up. And see, you didn't even see it come out of my inventory. I'm gonna throw it again, and now they should both be inside here. Yep, there they are. Okay. But anyways, if you apply redstone signal, then it doesn't pick up anything. It pretty much turns it off. So we're going to put that right there. It doesn't really matter how it's facing, but just because I'm weird, I'm going to do that. And it should take its information here. Botania, alter. Botania is the channel. Alter is the name of the node. So let's go back up at that up here. Because I broke it, I have to reset that the node is even there. So we're going to do net setup Botania because it's the name of the channel. There we go. And it found 2 nodes and 1 crafting station. The 2 nodes, there's one there, the one we just looked at underneath, and the crafting station is this right here. Okay, so redstone signal. What happens before we start throwing ingredients down from this precision dropper from actually additions? We need to disable the range collector down there because it will collect the runes that we're dropping down onto here. I can throw this. Like say if we had some ingredients coming down just like that, oh, it actually picked it up. And that's a good example. If we were dropping those down and we didn't have the redstone signal applied, it would pick it up and it would never make it to the altar. So that's what that's for. Go back up here and we'll look at the code some more. Okay, so it's applying the redstone, and then now we're ready to insert items into the precision dropper up here through this node, and this node is called drop. So let's look back up here after the redstone signal. We want the inventory drop, and we want to insert items to the west, which is that direction. So that would be, you know, that block right there. Okay, and we're gonna grab from slots 11 through 16. Remember over here we put our ingredients into slots 11 through 16. So we're gonna grab them from 11 through 16. And then it's gonna say, well, what's the first external slot would you like to place items into? And what that's asking is that which one of these slots would be the first one that you want to place things. That's really useful in a crafting grid, but doesn't matter when you're putting it into a machine most of the time. So we left it blank. Alright, so then we're going to get a wire here, and it's just going to connect on downwards, and what we're using the wires for is because we're connecting from another side also that's going to go this way too. So it's kind of 2 different tracks are going down this way. So after we have the items inside here, because it's on deactivation mode, they will automatically drop straight down onto the altar and get caught up inside here. Now what I like the precision dropper for better than the dropping crate or open barrel, yeah, that's what it's called, open barrel, is because I don't know if the open barrel has like where you can put multiple items inside, and I know that the code here, it will grab the items in slots 11 through 16. It will grab them all at once and put them inside here, and with the open crate I don't know if they'll all make it inside there or not, and I don't want the program to skip over it if there's only a slot for one item at a time if it's doing instantaneously. But I do know for a fact that this has 9 different slots because you can see them, so that's fine. Okay, that being said, once the items are in there and dropped, it will come down here and it will start to evaluate the redstone signal that is coming from that comparator that is pointing straight down. And what it's doing is it's looking for that 2. You know, when the mana circle is finally reached all the way around and it's done, it's going to signal a signal of 2, and then that's how our program is going to know it's ready to move on. So it's going to say, hey, what's your signal? And then it's going to say, are you equal to 2? And if it is false, it will go up and it will wait for 60 ticks, which is 3 seconds, and then it will come back around and it'll say, hey, what's your signal right now? And it will say, hey, are you 2? And if it doesn't equal 2, it's going to wait for 3 seconds, and so on and so forth, until finally it says, yes, it is a 2. Alright, great, so that's true, so we're ready to move on to the next thing. So then what we're getting is we're getting a living rock. Yeah, seems like we're missing some. Okay, we're getting living rock, and we're going to get it from the inventory, which is blank. If it's blank, then that means it grabs from the storage control module that is inside the processor. And this storage control module, just like these over here, they were it was shift right clicked onto my main storage, and that's where it's going to be pulling from. So it's pulling living rock from pretty much my main stuff over here. So if I type in living rock or early start 2, you can see that's my supply of living rock. And if I were to make a rune, we'll just go ahead. Oh, I keep thinking that you could like click on the wall and it'll start making it. I forget that you have to start it over here. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. There's 148 in there. When it drops, it should be 147. So it's going around. And this is the point where it's like, okay, are you a signal 2 yet? Are you a signal 2 yet? Are you a signal 2 yet? And it'll finally say, yes, I'm a signal 2. Drop that living rock. So then it does. And then it'll hit it with the wand, which we will look at. And then it'll go inside here, and that will say 6. There it goes. And our living rock now should say 147. Yep, 147. Okay. So then let's go back inside here. This is where we pulled the living rock out of our inventory. We're only going to pull out 1, and we're going to put it in slot 9. And slot 9 is this one right here. Okay, so that's going to come in handy later on. So then once we have it into our processor, we're going to want to put it into the precision dropper so we'll drop it onto our altar. And that is this next step. You can see like the little green tab here. It's going up to the next thing. Okay, so the inventory that we want to put it into is in the drop node to the west, which is that way, the precision dropper. And we are going to grab from slot 9. And remember, back here, we put the living rock in slot 9, so we're grabbing the living rock from slot 9. Okay, so then once it has that, that means it dropped down. And then we're going to wait. We're going to wait 5 seconds for it to drop down. Could probably be done a little bit faster, but 5, it's a good set number, right? So after 5 seconds, we are going to send a redstone signal out to the back. No, wait. Okay, so after... I know it's 5 seconds because I want to make sure, like, certainly that it is on the altar. So what's going to happen is that we are going to set the redstone signal to 0. That is underneath and facing the range collector. Because remember, we turned the redstone signal on, which turned the range collector off. Now we want to turn the range collector back on again, so that's why we're setting it to 0, because once the wand hits the altar, it's going to drop runes, and we want the range collector to be able to pick them up. Okay, so we're setting it to 0, so now it's active, and we're using the wire to come around, and we're going to send a redstone signal to the back where that redstone conduit was. That's going to head up to mechanical user and turn that mechanical user on. That will swing the wand at the altar. And then we're going to wait for 4 ticks, so we're actually making a pulse here. And then we're going to turn the signal to 0, so that's the end of the pulse. And then we are going to wait for 3 seconds. And the 3 seconds that we're waiting is for the range collector to actually pick it up and put it in its own inventory. And then we are going to go to this next part here, which is counting items inside of an inventory. And the inventory we have here is the range collector, and it's going to count how many items are inside the range collector. Alright, so remember I said that the false item, or the false rune in here, is going to come into effect later on. This one right here, yeah, this is where it happens. Alright, so it's going to count the items inside the range collector. If it reports back with 1, then that means we can continue. If it reports back with a number that's not 1, which means that it's more than 1, like there's stuff inside there, then it's going to grab the items from the range collector, put it into the processor, into slot 9, and then we are going to go into slot 9, and we are going to put it into our dump chest, which is right there. Whoops. And then what's going to happen is that after we put that in, we're going to count the items inside there again. And if the items are bigger than 1, then we're going to get those items and we're going to put them into our dump chest again. It's going to go through and through. And why we do it multiple times is because it only picks up 1 stack of items at a time. And there are some of these rune recipes to where you use other runes. And you get those runes back when you make the bigger runes. So that means that's where, those are the instances where you would have more than 1 item inside that range collector. Okay. So when there's finally an equal of 1, which it's counting that 1 ghost rune. And I don't know why it does that, but if you put it at 0, it's never going to equal 0 because that one ghost rune is in there. If I were to not have that metadata, ignore metadata selected, I would have to keep upping this number to the amount of runes that are over on that left side being whitelisted. But because I can ignore metadata, I can just keep it at 1 and not have to worry about it further. Okay, so once it equals 1 or 0 extra items in the range collector, then it will wait 5 seconds, and that's to make sure that the runes like get into the inventory, it's recognized in the inventory and everything like that. And the reason I have so much time is because if I had it shorter, like say if there's a winter rune and it takes 2 different runes to make, I don't know what it is, water and air or something. If it makes 2 different runes, if it gets past that timer, if it were less than 5 seconds, and the runes aren't in the actual inventory yet, not being recognized, it will try to make that rune once again. It'll make it twice. So that's why I have a lot of extra time for it to like recognize that it's there, and then it won't make it a second time. It'll just make it the one time. So then once that's done, then it moves and unlocks and then says that the crafting recipe was good. And that is pretty much it. Let me see if I had actually missed anything. I can go ahead and I can do a Pastebin in the description of this program, but one thing that you're going to have to keep in mind is that I didn't do everything on the up and down. So as far as like locations of finding different things, like this is off to the side, you're going to have to figure that out for your own world and what you're doing. But I think that's pretty much it. I have a hidden cow back here for like when I want to make milk for the cake. I don't have an automated way to get like wheat and eggs and stuff like that. So if I run out, I run out, but I don't think that I'm going to need like more than 5 runes of the winter. You never know. I might. Who knows? But that's it. Sorry about it being a long one. Sorry about it being a technical one. It's just, you know, if you're interested in Rftools control, I like to get this stuff explained out there. It might get you some ideas, and maybe you can tell me some of your ideas on how to program some of these things. Some of what came up in chat is that there's this loop function here, test for a loop. It looks interesting. It looks like something that could be useful, but I don't know how to use it. If you could think of it, let me know of some practical uses for that. Another one is this down here, the GFX stuff. I've not played with that at all yet, so if you can think of some practical uses, like up here there's an event to get it started, GFX select. It sounds like you can put a graphics card inside one of these screens, or your computer or something, or processor I mean, and maybe you'll be able to draw something and make some, you know, make a program start or something like that. I don't know, I haven't played with it, but if you can think of anything, let me know. If you can think of any improvements, or if you have any questions, yeah, so go ahead and check out the code in the Pastebin, you know, look at it, see if you can make it work with your system, and I think I'll have to leave it there. So you all have a great day, and I'll see you next time.